Jordan, sports fan, Alain fans. We're back. Mike, what's going on, man?
Not much, brother. Good to be back, man. It's been a while.
It's been a while, and it's been weird also in the playoffs. No LeBron, no Curry. We just mentioned it's a little weird, but
Yeah.
so I don't even need Mike. Do you know what we're gonna talk today, right? What's
Ooh.
in that square right there? What gives you the hint?
The NBA.
I got my book. I got my bootleg jersey.
Brooklyn Nets.
It's a bootleg jersey right here of the NBA. It's not a real jersey yet. I'll get my jersey. But yeah, yeah, man, it's been we're in the second round of the playoffs, guys. We didn't get a chance to do any pod for the first round, but we'll mention it. Mike, before we get into it, to the East or the West,
Mhm.
how are you liking the playoffs so far? First,
um
second round.
so the first round was pretty interesting. I think even before we got into the playoffs, I think the NBA did a very good job with the play-in tournament. I think that was a good selling point for everybody that kind of doubted the play-in tournament. And we actually got the chance to see a player lose the MVP right there as well. Because if Curry had beaten the Lakers, he would have been the MVP of the league for a second time, or is it the third time?
Second,
Yeah, third time,
or third
right?
time, yeah.
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 So yeah, I think the first round was really solid for the most part. Some good matchups. Um, a little bit of drama in terms of like what we saw with like Miami versus the Milwaukee Bucks, a rematch of of last postseason. Luca versus the Clippers, again another rematch. You had Utah losing their first game at home versus a very hungry John Morant. So I kind of really enjoyed the first round for the most part, but once those big names got out of the playoffs, and we were kind of left with the bad man that is Kevin Durant now, and the playoffs on the East Coast, it's just like, all right, man, everybody pack it up.
All right, let's get into this series. Second round, the Nets and the Bucks. The Nets they knocked out the Celtics. The first round. It was a pretty quick 4-1. Did you ever think that deep down, like the Celtics had a chance to take it to 6 games?
No, because they didn't have Jalen Brown. So I thought maybe there was like a slimmer of a chance if Kemba Walker played, but then Kemba Walker went
Yeah.
out as well, and then it was basically Jason Tatum versus the world. And at that point, it was just there was no contest, man. I just, I'm surprised they even got one game out of the series on top of like a great performance by Jason Tatum. But there was no doubt in my mind that you know I thought they were gonna get swept, like even with Kemba, like so. And then Kemba went down. It was just like, nah, man. There's no hope for this team, unfortunately.
The Bucks they swept the Heat
Hmm.
before they're meeting the Bucks right now. But let's go back to the Bucks and the Heat, 4-0. And we were mentioned that what became different for the Bucks and what happened to the Heat.
I think for the Bucks themselves, it's the addition of Drew Holiday. I think throughout their run for the last couple of seasons, I think it was very obvious. Eric Bledsoe is just not the point guard to play next to Giannis. He's a very physical guard. He could play both ends a little bit, but his inconsistency and his lack of I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'll just say like his lack of basketball acumen is telling when you're playing next to a guy like Giannis, because you need shooters. Like Giannis needs shooters, but I mean he's not like a prolific shooter. And you add Drew Holiday, he's a terrific shooter. He plays inside and out just like Eric Bledsoe plays, and he's a even better defender on the other side of the ball. So I think that was the bigger piece of the puzzle for the Bucks. On Miami's side, I think it's, our good friend Sebastian would say the loss of Jay Crowder. But honestly, for me, is it just boils down to Jimmy Butler, man. Jimmy Butler just didn't show up. Like, he just didn't play like a superstar, unfortunately. Like, I think he ended up averaging about 14 points, 14 and a half points, or like 15 points per game in the playoffs. And, throughout those 4 games, that's just not enough for the guy that's, supposed to elevate the team. You're the franchise player at this point, and we saw what you did in the finals last year. So you kind of needed to replicate that type of performance. And I think there's a lot of adjustments that he needs to make to his game. I think Tyler Hero probably got into a little bit of a sophomore slump. So, there's a lot of factors that people could talk about. They say for both of those teams, they had the biggest turnaround, the Lakers and the Miami Heat. They're both out of the first round, but I'm not gonna, say that's what it was, because the Bucks were there as well. There was other teams that were there as well. In the bubble, like a few months, before the season started. I'm not gonna boil it down to that. I think Jimmy Butler just had to do better in that series.
Gotcha. Going back to the Bucks and the Nets, what's your series expectation? Like, I know it's going to be 2-0. How do you see that ending?
So here's what I think about about the Brooklyn Nets.
I was thinking that.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. But it's kind of messed up to say, but it's like Thanos is out there somewhere, just like, with the little knife on his finger, and he's like, oh man, everything is just perfectly balanced now. The Brooklyn Nets were, when they added Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they were already an amazing team. Like, everybody projected them to already go to the finals because they had Spencer Dinwiddie, they had Karis LeVert, they had Jared Allen. They had all the components that they needed to make a deep run into the playoffs. And then they blew it up and they added James Harden. And I was like, all right, man, how much is too much? Like, like now you got 3 of the best scorers in NBA history. The greatest big 3, like individually talent-wise, that we probably will ever see in our lifetime. No disrespect to Klay, Steph, and KD, but those guys are just different. They're just different animals, man. And then buyout market comes and you add LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin. And it's like, bruh, like how much is too much, man? Like, what are we doing here? So it's kind of messed up to think about it that way, but it's just like, LaMarcus Aldridge went out, with health conditions. He had to announce his retirement. And now you get into the play, they had lost Spencer Dinwiddie very, very early on. And now you get into the playoffs. James Harden goes down with a hamstring injury. And it's just like, everybody, like, it's just like nature saying that, you're too hot. You're too hot, man. Like, relax. Relax. Like, let's just balance it out a little bit to make it fair for everybody else. Unfortunately, I still think it's going to be like, a 4-1 series at best. I don't think the Bucks have the requisite components to beat that team, even though like everybody's talking about size for Brooklyn and stuff like that. Man, size don't matter if you could score 140 points on command, bro. Like it just doesn't. So
you saw the last game.
Like it just doesn't. Maybe the Bucks make it a little bit more physical on them, and we could kind of see what happens with that and try to dominate inside. But one of the things with the Bucks that we've kind of seen over the years as well is that they love to settle for jump shots and they love to settle for 3-pointers. So if they want to play inside and out, that's one thing. But if they want to settle for those jumpers, I don't think they have any chance in that series to win a game.
So 4-1, you say?
Yeah, I'd say at best 4-1.
Oh, okay.
But
Hawks.
I'm looking for the.
Oh, you take the broom.
That broom.
I should have got my broom, man. Next show, I'll put my broom. Hawks and 76ers series. How do you see that ending?
It's a very interesting series, man. I think that the Atlanta Hawks are very, very talented. Yeah, man. Ice Cold Trey. They're very, very talented, led by.
It's really icy.
Yeah, very talented young point guard and Trae Young. They got Bogdanovich back. You know, they have Gallo, they have Zach, they have Hunter. You know,
Hunter's not here no more.
oh, he's not here. Oh,
Just
he's
for a
injured.
quick update, is yeah, he's gonna be out for the rest of the playoffs.
That's a big piece. They
Yeah,
still have,
he was
you know,
doing really good in the last series against the Knicks. Hunter.
and they have a
Yeah.
good inside rim protector in Clint Capella as well. They're just loaded with shooters. Um, I feel like it's gonna be a pretty difficult series for Philly because of I just don't ever know with Joel Embiid. I just never know how long he's going to last. We already seen it already in the playoffs where he's had to miss a game already because of it. Like, you know, he has a meniscus tear. So, you know, depending on how deep they go into the playoffs, once that's over, it's not necessary for to get a surgery with meniscus tear, but you know, with his injury past, like, you know, he's most likely going to go under the knife. Um, I I want to say 4-2 Philly.
Okay.
You know, I want to say 4-2 Philly. I just don't think they're going to let this opportunity slip, and they're going to make it to the finals. I think Doc is a way better coach than what Brett Brown will ever be in his lifetime. You know, take the disrespect as you want if Brett Brown ever listens to this or sees this, but it's just facts, man. So
I actually have a question for that series.
go ahead.
Do you, in the defensive side for the 76ers, do you make Trey a shooter or a passer? What's better for you? Because at the end of the day, he does is better. I mean, what
I,
he does, he shoots and he's a good
he
passer. But
assists, yeah.
what do you want him like?
I think
What's the
if
approach? Yeah.
I think for me personally, I'd be curious to see like what a guy like Coach thinks. You know, shout out to Coach O. I think for me when I'm looking at you know the assets that a team like Atlanta has, I would say I would just try to put Ben Simmons on Trey Young and like let him work. Like if he's gonna score, let him score. I would try to limit his assists as much as possible because there's just too many shooters on that team and too many
Yeah.
talented players to like get everybody involved and get like let these other guys get into a rhythm. Bogdanovich, Clint Capella, I'm saying Zach Collins, Collins and
I'm not sure how to. I don't want to mispronounce his last name. I think Yoder.
yeah, Kevin Herter or
Kevin
yeah,
Herter. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, there's just like too many lethal shooters on that
And you got
team.
Lou Williams coming off the bench doing his
Exactly.
thing. So yeah,
Exactly. So I would just make it as difficult and as physically imposing as it like and physically difficult for Trey Young and just make things very hard for him. Like instead of getting the ball out of his hands and like making sure that he gets everybody else involved.
four
What
two.
did
You
you think
said.
of that series so far?
Oh, that one.
Mm.
It gives me the same kind of vibe as the Hawks versus the Knicks. These guys are these guys. I don't know. These guys came into play since the first game versus the Knicks. So everyone is doing their part. Bogdanovic is he's been on and off, but he's been hitting important shots,
Hmm.
important threes. Uter as well. Hunter was doing well in his mid range. So that series is the same thing. Like they are attacking. Trey Young is doing his thing, scoring and passing, making sure everyone gets involved early on, so the rhythm can keep on going.
Hmm.
That's when that question comes up. When I was thinking, I'm like, okay, what's better? Do you let him do his thing, because he's gonna do his thing, and prevent the passes so that everyone stays cold, and you try like just trying to do his best, but to defend him. But
Yeah.
yo, in the end of the day, man, I think that series is gonna be. They already took a game already, like
Hmm.
they did against the Knicks. Um, it's gonna be hard beating him in the A.
It is. It
It's
is.
gonna be hard, but I think if a team can if it's a Sixers is a that's the team that can do it.
And shout outs to Nick McMillan, man. I was even though he was unlucky with the injuries that he got early on, I just knew like the minute that they added the players that they added in the offseason, where Milwaukee unfortunately, botched the Bogdanovich acquisition, and he had to end up in Atlanta. We all knew that they were going to make the playoffs, but they started off really, really poorly. They had some injuries, and they had to fire Lloyd Pierce, and I kind of questioned the firing, but now, like, it's just clear that it was the right decision. Nate McMillan is a terrific head coach. Everywhere he's been successful, and he's been unfairly fired in every position that he has been, in my opinion, in Portland, in Indiana, and now he's with Atlanta. And he has a very talented squad, and hopefully,
He can.
he could do something with that.
But yeah, that's my thought. But I think in the end of the day, it's gonna be a 7 game series, and the 7-6 is gonna take it.
Okay.
Okay. Um, that's all for the East, right? We're going to the West. Nuggets and Suns 2-0, Mike. All right.
The Chris Paul effect, man. CP3,
Chris Paul. How old is Chris Paul? 36, right?
36 years old.
Man, the Knicks better throw that back.
I'll take. He's staying here for 39. But let's talk about that series, Mike. Like Suns knocked out the Lakers. They have a nice little squad. Everyone is doing their thing. Crowder, obviously Devin Booker, General, Chris Paul, and showing that leadership with Payne, the dancer. Is not a dancer anymore, Mike. He's doing his thing. He's doing his thing. So you can see the effect already. But talk to me about that series. What do you see it? How far do you see it going? Does the Nuggets has a chance? Who has to step up? What do you see?
So for the Suns, I think they're gonna end up in the NBA Finals. Let me just speak on the Denver Nuggets side first, and then, but that's my expectation for the Suns. I think they're gonna end up in the NBA Finals. On the Denver Nuggets side, I know they said that he kind of had a stiff back last game, but the guy that really got him over the hump in that Portland series was Michael Porter Jr. and and their bench to help their MVP. Nikola Jokic is a terrific basketball player, but he can't do it alone, especially when he's going against with DeAndre Ayton, who's playing like great defensive basketball right now. Like he's just been excellent in the playoffs so far. For the Denver Nuggets to actually have a chance in that series, not only does Michael Porter have to play excellent basketball, but Monte Morris off the bench, he's going to have to, contribute the same amount that he had in the earlier series in Portland. And the guards, Austin Rivers and Campazzo, they're going to have to kind of make Devin Booker and Chris Paul work. Like, they're not scorers per se, but dude, run off of screens, like, take some early shots or drive and be physical, just so that these guys could be, workers like on the defensive end, because the way Devin Booker and Chris Paul are just, carving up their defense, man, it's just crazy. And it just seems to me like, yo, these guys are fresh all game. So, you're gonna have to start to make them work a little bit.
When you say work, like kind of explain it to like the audience what you mean about like making them work. Like
Just
how is it gonna help you in the offensive side when
they
got the
just
ball?
have to, like, they're not going to be taking defensive possessions off. Like a guy like Campazzo, I think he probably averages about 4 shots a game, if that. So if you up that a little bit more, like, or even if not, like, you're driving to make layups where you're kind of keeping Chris Paul a little bit more aware, and you kind of wear him down a little bit more. And I've said that, and it's just not me being disrespectful. It's the fact that every playoffs that Chris Paul has ever been in, he has never lasted longer than the second round. Like or like, until the finals, and he's the conference finals, and he got injured. But you know, the wear and tear like on Chris Paul's body is apparent. So as terrific as a basketball player that he is, he's prone to those injuries in the playoffs. So make him work. And if you have him not being able to take those defensive possessions off, then that brings their energy down a little bit more. Maybe their legs get a little bit more heavy, where Devin Booker is not, shooting from 40 feet out and just, dropping raining threes on you like it's nobody's business. He's not, when he's doing those turnaround jumpers and fadeaways, he's a little bit short on those maybe. You just have to make him work harder. That's about it. For Phoenix themselves, don't change anything, man. It's just like
it's been working.
Like Crowder's playing, like the efficiency and the scoring balance is just insane. Like, where I think last game there was no 20-point scorer in that game.
No, Devin Booker scored more than the most he scored was 19 points.
Exactly. Like so, it from their starters is just extremely balanced scoring, and again, like, excuse me, I don't know if it's just Chris Paul or even Monty Williams as a coach, but Cameron Payne, Frank Kaminsky, guys that just when they were playing for other franchises were scrubs, man, like scrubs. Like Cameron Payne played for the Chicago Bulls. He was awful. Frank Kaminsky was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets. He was not good. Like, so, when you got like Dario Saric is solid, like, you got those role players that are just, fitting in and they're just doing their jobs and they're just playing really good basketball. So shout outs to them. I see them going into the finals. If Utah gets over the Clippers, I don't see Utah actually beating the Phoenix Suns.
Before we move to the Utah and the Clippers, how do you, like, I know you said Suns going, how much?
I think 4-1.
4-1?
I think 4-1 would be my prediction for that series.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on to the Clippers and the Jazz.
Right.
Clippers got a little scared last series. I think, you remember when Coach said that LaMelo was going to be, I think maybe it might be Doncic, right? What do you think?
I don't know, because it's really hard marketing somebody, in the NBA that really can't speak great English. So like it's hard to
let's get Devin Booker then.
It's just tough. And I'm not saying that, LaMelo is the most eloquent, speaker or whatever. It's just I feel like, with the NBA, it's they try to market Giannis because he's, not only he's an African, from African descent, and they want, basketball in that region to be bigger as well. They're always going to push those foreign players because it's a foreign market, so that means that generates more dollars for the NBA at the end of the day. But it's still an American league, even though it's like basically the World League or whatever. I kind of don't see the NBA really pushing a non-American player or a non-domestic player to be there, the face of the NBA, basically. It's all going to depend on, what happens in the next few years. Like, if Jason Tatum develops even more, you have Ja Morant, who's one of the most exciting young players in the league right now. LaMelo Ball is there as well. Like, don't get me wrong. It's just going to, depend on like, what these guys talk about. Ja Morant is just, he talks his talk, man. So, I could see the NBA getting behind him, and he becomes like, the face of the league at some point as well. But it's going to be interesting to see. But Doncic is definitely the front runner in that crop of guys. But yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, going back to the Clippers and the Jazz. Clippers made it to the second round. The Jazz won the first game, and I believe they're playing tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow at 10 p.m. What does the Clippers got to do to take care of business, basically?
For the Clippers, man, I mean, I don't know if you listened to the voice note that I had sent. It's It's just funny to me for a team that has so many individual good defensive players, and some would say one of the best two-way players of all time in Kawhi Leonard, arguably one of the best two-way players of all time. Somebody that's supposed to be like a defensive specialist as well in Paul George. They just let individuals just cook them all the time, man. Donovan Mitchell just gave him 45 points last game
And
to do
Doncic was cooking all of them.
exactly to do a comeback win in their first game versus the Clippers. I just don't understand it personally. Um, I think the Clippers, you know, individually, and that's why I said, you know, when the Dallas Mavericks had the opportunity to go up 3-0 in the series and they let the Clippers back in the series, I thought the series was over from that point because individually their talent is just better. Where, you know, on the opposite end, on the Dallas side, it's just one player and one player only, and Luka Doncic. Um, for the Clippers, I just think Paul George has to show up. That's it. Just show up to work, bro. That's all you have to do. If you show up to work, the Clippers win this series. The Utah Jazz are extremely well coached. They have the defensive player of the year in Rudy Gobert. They have a very good individual talent in Donovan Mitchell, even though he's a little bit undersized at 6'3", which I don't understand as well. Like, yo, the dude is 6'3", 6'4", bro. Like, how is he giving you so many buckets? Like how? Kawhi, where are you? Paul George, where are you? So that's all they have to do, man. I think
Show the work.
that's it. I think Ty Lue has done a terrific job with his staff in this playoffs, even though I don't really consider him a head coach in the NBA. He's done a good job in terms of icing his starting point guard and going to Reggie Jackson, who's the more talented point guard, who could actually play for himself instead of Pat Bev. He's given guys like Luke Kennard a look now because he realizes that he needs a little bit more shooting. And the other guys, I feel like the series versus Dallas kind of woke him up a little bit, but I don't know to what extent. I think that's going to make him better in the long run. But again, it literally the X factor for the Clippers is Paul George. That's it. Just show up to work, man. Stop going to MIA in the playoffs. Where is playoff P? Everybody is looking for playoff P. Where is he?
We'll see.
Can't be found. Can't be found. The other thing I would like to say before we move on, Richie, is that I know a lot of people are going to blame Kristaps for Dallas's exit in the playoffs, but I'd just like to say, like, I think the same shots that if, let's say, Kristaps established himself a little in the post a little bit more, if anybody saw during the series, the Clippers played really small. I think Zubac averaged maybe 18 to 20 minutes per game in the series. They played very, very small, and their defensive rotations are extremely quick. So when they were actually trying to get where they were getting the ball out of Luka's hands, Dallas wasn't really getting clean shots because they were so quick in their defensive rotations. I think it would be the same thing for Kristaps. The only thing I would say would be probably different is that maybe Luka gets more wide open shots instead of having to play, individual basketball. That's about it. But I don't think it would have changed much in the offense.
Well, what's the series? What's the numbers of the series?
For this series, I think it goes to 7. I want to say Utah in 7.
Utah in 7.
Yep.
Okie dokie. Last question for today is MVP pick Jokic. He's the MVP of the league.
Yep.
Do you agree?
I have to agree, man. I have to agree. I know.
Why did he get it over Embiid? Like we know like the ranking was it was Jokic, Embiid, and Curry, right? Third.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, we understood why Curry didn't get it, but why Jokic over Embiid?
I think I want to say it was Jay Will who said it on his show. It's a perfect attendance award for Jokic. Like, it just I like, it's just a perfect attendance award for him. Not to take away from his accomplishments for the year, especially after Jamal Murray went down, and I think their record after Jamal Murray went down was 15-3, to push them, to catapult them in that top three slot. Is that where they ended?
No.
Uh, what was it?
Because
It was
they played Portland, so
it's
they
Utah.
finished fourth.
Okay, yeah. So did they? No, no, no. Yeah, they finished third. I think it was
Third? Oh,
I think
Portland finished
Dallas and
sixth.
Clippers. Yeah, I think it's Dallas and Clippers that
Oh
finished fourth.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so to catapult them in that third seed, yeah, man, like deserving. But I think if Joel Embiid again, if he plays the full season, or not even the full season, if he plays 70 games out of those 82, I think Joel Embiid is the clear MVP.
Mhm.
Um, or even if sorry, if Steph beats the Lakers and he makes the playoffs and he goes into the first round,
He
he's
might have got it because he was the hottest player in the
yeah,
NBA right now.
he gets the MVP, and that's all I said. Like when the nominations came out, I didn't know if they had to vote at that point. If Because the game was the night after the Lakers versus the Warriors game. It was right after. If they had to submit their votes that night, I think, Steph would
Wins
have
it.
won. I think Steph would have won. But I just know like how these politics work at this point, and it is politics, and that's why I told you guys like, yo, there's the if possibility, there's this big ass if that Steph Curry doesn't make the playoffs, and it would just look extremely bad if the MVP of the NBA was
They didn't
sitting
make
at
the
home
playoffs.
right now. Like
Caressing the MVP.
was sitting at home right now not playing in the playoffs. It just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
And even then right now, like, thankfully they're in the second round, and I think the award was given to him before the second game, so it wasn't as bad, but there's still the possibility that Denver Nuggets get swept. So,
Mhm.
it's still not a great look. But then again, what MVP how many MVPs has gone on to win the NBA
Not
championship as
not
well?
not many.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, I'm good with it. I'm perfectly fine with it, honestly, because for me, Joel just missed too many games. So I can't do it.
You can't do
Yeah.
it.
How about you? How do you feel about that award?
You saw how I was speaking already about it. I believe it was either Jokic or Embiid. Um, nothing against Curry. This was my point. So my point was, I'm gonna put it like straightforward. Um, Curry was the hottest player, the best player towards the end of the NBA, of the end. Like when did he start like a hot streak? Was it around after All Star or before?
I think before.
Before, okay. So from that time to the end of the season, he was the best player of that league. And they gave me flashback of Damian Lillard. Lillard time last year before they went to the bubble. Got in the bubble, still did his thing, qualified his team to the playoffs. And he did not win the MVP. And I did not think once during that time that he deserved the MVP. I still think it was Giannis or either LeBron, because I think that overall in the whole season they impacted the team from end from beginning to end. So it gave me the same vibe for Curry. I'm like, okay, he started impacting the team, and I understand that without Curry, that team wouldn't even make the ninth seed. They would have probably like be rock bottom. I understand how strong he means to that team,
Hmm.
and the point also to pick him of MVP because that team wouldn't be near the playing tournament. But I believe Embiid and Jokic throughout the season, they, I don't know, like it's just they
They
did their thing.
they were a crop above.
Yeah.
The only other shout outs to guys like Dame, who played terrific season. Shout outs to um, Donovan Mitchell. Shout outs to CP3. Donovan Mitchell missed a lot of games as well. but you know, the
Shout out to my boy Rendo.
yeah, true. He was on there as well. Shout outs to those guys, but it's definitely tough outside in the West, and it's even tougher when you lose
Yeah,
your
starting
second
point
best,
guard.
your second best player, your starting point guard, and Jamal Murray, and you still end the season with a 15 and going down with a 15-3 record after he goes down. So that was extremely impressive.
Yeah. All
Uh,
right. I'm not sure if you have anything to add, Mike.
I did. I'm losing my train of thought though. Like I really want to touch upon this Damian Lillard situation. What do you think? Like, do you,
Oh, okay.
do
Not
you
bad.
do you think it's time to blow it up in
I
Portland?
think at certain point, like guys like Damian Lillard and Beal, like I've seen it a lot with other players. Like they're saying that they want to stay, like they want to be there. They want to be that franchise player. They want to bring that glory to that team. But there's gonna be one time that you're gonna lose in the playoff, and you're gonna be over it. You're gonna be fed up. It's gonna hurt, and you're gonna be over it, and you're gonna be thinking about, I think I've done enough, and I'm thinking about the next step. I think it's that time for Damian Lillard. It's either he leaves or they blow it up. Before he leaves, I would probably be giving another chance blowing up that team, see what's the different scenario, what's a different scenario. But like it gets to the point also. It's like maybe you're not even want another center. You want to join another team.
Yeah,
I
I think.
personally would want to see him in a different scenario, like not in Portland though.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with Portland right now is, well, with Damian Lillard himself, is that it's just difficult to trade him. Like
Yeah,
it's just difficult
you
to
got to
to
blow a whole
to
team for this thing.
to move him. Yeah, that's the thing, and that's why you know for the past 2 years I've just been saying it's like, dude,
Blow that
just trade
CJ. Give us
CJ.
CJ. I'll take him to the
Just
Knicks.
trade CJ. Like get him a bigger wing that can not only defend but can score the basketball as well. And you round up the squad afterwards. Nurk, it seems like he might have to move on. They might have to move on from him as well. I don't know who's a better replacement for him at that spot. Zach Collins didn't play all year this year, but Zach Collins is a terrific young player. I just think like it's tough to move him, and even when you move him, depending on the team that you move him to, like what are you giving up for Dame, and what conference does he go to? Does he go to, and what other teams are established in those conference already who could make a deep playoff run and who are going to be in who's going to be an obstacle to him. That's why I'm like, yo, he should stay in Portland.
Mhm.
Coach is gone now. Get a better coach. Trade CJ McCollum, and start retooling that team to fit what he needs. Because what I'm looking at first, they were lacking the offensive tools. It was just like I've said in the past, him and CJ, they work really hard to get the points that they have to. At first, it was just them. Nurk never really steps up when he should be. Like I think he should be a 20 and 10 player every night. He's not that guy. So they retooled. They got Mello. They got what's his name? The 6'8" guy that used to play for.
Powell.
No. They got
Oh,
Norman Powell as well, but the damn, I forget his name. He used to play for Philly as well in Houston, but he's in Portland now. They'll correct me in the comments, but what I
Derek
saw.
Jr.
No, not Derek Jones
Oh,
Jr. Like
I'm sorry.
he didn't really play much, but they're just lacking that defensive and like identity. I think now is the problem because the way I'm saying Brooklyn, the way the Nuggets were scoring on them, man, especially Jokic versus Nurk, like it was just embarrassing. And I understand Nurk is a very dominant player in his own right, but like that was just embarrassing the way they were just getting scored on so easily, especially in game 5 where they had a lead throughout most of the game, and Dame had to play hero the fourth quarter and they went into OT because Denver came back in the game. So maybe a different coach and a different voice will, a different staff will bring that identity to them. But I still think it's time to move on from CJ.
We'll see. It's gonna
Yep.
be addressed this summer, so
Yep.
they're definitely gonna have changes.
I mean, we'll see, man. Zach Levine sold his house in Chicago, so I'm ready to cry. So we might see him end up in Portland.
We'll see. All right, man. It was a good show.
Yeah,
Thank you
man.
guys. Thank you,
Appreciate you.
Mike, for being here.
Appreciate you.
We're gonna have one pretty. Thank you. we're gonna have a one pretty soon, and then we're gonna have the other guys. So yeah, thank you for coming, man.
No doubt.
All right.